This is Tiara,
Hello, this is Ali.
and this is the Goddess Vibration. Welcome. Today, we're going to talk about the Goddess frequency, which makes sense because we are called the Goddess Vibration. So I think it makes sense to talk about where that came from, just in my humble opinion.
I agree.
Now, we are still in the midst of one of the worst heat waves ever. We talked about this in our last podcast, and I am so badly craving the ocean. Like, I was looking at the temperatures in like San Diego, La Jolla. The rest of the country is at like 120, and San Diego was just a nice, brisk 75, 80-degree highs for like 10 days plus. And I'm like, what am I doing with my life? So I'm trying to figure out a way to get over there. Maybe for like a couple days. I don't know. I just, I don't know if I can tolerate this heat anymore.
Well, I'm pretty sure I mentioned last episode too. It's only going to get hotter and
I
next year
know.
is going to get worse.
And I'm just like, how? How does it get hotter than 120 degrees? Like, my mind cannot fathom that.
Well,
I
I
just,
think it's time to reevaluate your life.
right. Yeah, I think it is. So, yeah, I've just been having thoughts about how to get to the ocean. Last time I went to La Jolla, oh my God, it was just so gorgeous and it was so beautiful. I think it's my favorite beach right now. And um, the water was just so pristine and it was clean. And I'm like, yes, I could stay here forever. Yes. I can't deal with the costs of La Jolla, but like just to visit for a little bit. Oh, yeah. Yes. And, I feel like the ocean's calling me anyway,
I think there's
which I'm getting
multiple
used to.
reasons for that. I mean, you also dream about the ocean. You've had
Oh, that's true. That's
messages. Well,
right.
you've also have had messages saying you need to visit XYZ place.
That's right. I forgot all about that. What was that place I told you I had the dream about? Or like the first
Curacao.
Yes, and I can never say it right. Curacao. I think the first time I was like, oh yeah, I had a dream about Caracas. And wait, which is a place. That's a place too, right? Isn't it?
It is.
Okay. I don't know what happened there. But yeah, so that's exactly it. That was the place. And I distinctly remember seeing like just this gorgeous blue water and just feeling like this call and this pull to that specific area. But honestly, I think it was just the ocean calling me. And I'll get into why I think that might be. Uh but yeah, I completely forgot about that dream.
It happens to all of us. Don't worry about it.
Speaking of dreams, Allie had a very interesting dream.
It wasn't recently. It was actually last night or this morning. Either.
Okay, that's recent. That's still recently.
So I had a dream this morning and it was about, I'm pretty sure, I'm not positive. I have to get some clarification, but I had a dream about I believe, an ancient civilization that was underground. And sometimes I dream about portals, like finding portals, because we live in a matrix. And this one was really, really interesting. I had come across I was in a deserted place, maybe inside of a cave. It was definitely remote, hard to find. And I came across this abandoned, what appeared to be a railway or a railroad. And there was this really pristine cart and a lever. And if you got into the cart and if you pulled the lever, then the ground would open up beneath you and the cart would go underneath the ground, and then you would just roll down into this ancient civilization that was all like, it was a golden city, but it was more than just gold. It was very beautiful, like, the surroundings was really beautiful with just really bright, vibrant greens and flowers and the most pristine water, and I was talking to Tiara about this, and she was like, "Oh my god, I think that's a real place."
Yes. And I don't know if it was like TikTok or where I stumbled across like information about golden ancient civilizations, which ancient civilizations were pretty amazing. So it wouldn't surprise me if there was or had been a gold ancient civilization, but I could have swore I saw something about there having been one somewhere on this planet. Um, so I just did like a brief Google search, and there was in ancient Egypt a supposed golden city called Luxor. So I'm wondering if that's maybe what you saw.
Maybe. We'll have to do some research and look into it.
Okay, we should probably make that a channeled question, a question for channeled messages.
It's already on the list.
Which, by the way, so me and Ali hold channeling sessions. Usually it's me as the channel and she as the sitter. And sometimes we'll just ask random questions. So, like the information we're going to share today about the goddess frequency came from channelings. So, I'm really excited to share some of that stuff. But yeah, so we'll just frequently stumble across different topics and questions and add them to our list. So, yeah, one of those is going to be about that. And I'm really excited to know more about that because that's really fascinating. So, full disclosure, Ali and I have something called a goddess frequency. Now, we wanted to explain what that is a little bit because that is very heavily tied to the title of our podcast. So, we did get a little bit of clarity from the angels yesterday about it. And so everyone has a specific frequency, right? We all vibrate at different frequencies, whether it's 3D or 4D or 5D or even higher. Now, most people on this planet are at a 3D frequency, which is the fear based frequency. It's the one that keeps you in the lower vibrations. It's the one that's very, very difficult to get out of. It's the one that they want us to ascend out of. Now, 4D is like the way I understand it is like a transitionary frequency. You're not meant to stay at 4D. It's just more like that bridge that's getting you out of 3D. And usually you'll have like a lot of profound realizations, or you're in the phase of like starting to introspect, or you're starting to do shadow work, or you're really just getting started with that deeper level of introspection that's meant to take you to the next highest frequency, which is 5D, which is where the angels would like to see most of humanity go. So, Allie and I have gone through that process, and we have actually gone beyond 5D, which, for the record, it is quite rare. I don't want the audience to think that they need to do that. It just depends on your soul agreements. And in ours, we are meant to go above 5D. So above that, you can get into higher and different frequencies. And one of those is something called the goddess frequency. So I'm just going to share what one of the angels told us this was. And I did get permission for all of this because, we respect the divine realm. So they said this was okay to share. So I'm going to go ahead and share it. So basically, it's a frequency that's assigned to souls who are here to perform a specific purpose. And if any of you guys know anything about us, our souls are here to assist with the ascension process on this planet. So I like to think of those souls that are here to assist with ascension as earth angels, particularly those at the higher frequencies. So essentially, it's the frequency that's assigned to be helpful for that specific purpose, and it will come through. At least for me, it came through as an energy that was lent by a goddess, and also the archangels are responsible for assigning this frequency. So my experience with this was very, very profound, and it was a very emotional, and I'll never forget it. I was, I think, was cooking dinner, and I had some music playing, and all of a sudden, I just got like this rush of emotion, this overwhelming rush of emotion, and it was like very, very watery energy, and I felt like it was being channeled through the music I was listening to. So I was just like, why am I feeling this? Like, what is this? Hit me out of nowhere, right? Like just this flood of emotion. And I was like, what is this? Like, why is this happening to me? And I hear a voice say distinctly, you are the goddess of the sea. And I was just like, what? Like, what does that mean? So I go and I look at the song that I'm listening to, and it's this jazz piece that was created by an artist out of Brazil. So a Brazilian artist that does jazz, like contemporary jazz. Um, Very, very beautiful album, by the way. I'll see if I can get the title of it because I don't quite remember. Wait, hold on. Sticks and Stones by Ray Obiedo. And I remember thinking, oh my God, this song is so beautiful. So I looked at the title of the song, and the title of the song was called Yamoya. So I go to Google and I'm like, what is Yamoya? What is Yamoya? And Google says that Yamoya is the name of the Brazilian goddess of the sea. And I'm like, at this point, I'm like completely blown away. Like, oh my God, like, was she talking to me through the music? Like, it was just incredible. So after that point, I started to explore a little bit more, and I learned that in West Africa, they have a version of this goddess called Yamaya or Amaya, and she is literally the goddess of the sea. She's more than that. She's the goddess of like waters, waterways, but she's a very watery energy, and she's tied to healing and connecting to one's deeper emotions and opening the heart space, clearing the heart space. And for a while, I did see her energy, and she would appear as like a blue orb, like just out the corner of my eye. And she was there for a little bit, and I was just like, "Oh, you're here to teach me something." So over time, I kind of continued to step into that energy and allowed it to wash over me and open up my heart space, and it did. And since then, I have connected to Amaya a couple times. She's a very beautiful high frequency goddess. She's always got incredible information to share and wisdom to share. And she has kept me sane on this journey, which has not been easy. Like, just for the record, this has not been an easy journey for either of us, me or Allie. So that was my experience. And with that, I have continued to stay connected to her. And it has opened me up to be able to connect to higher frequency beings, which has been an incredible experience.
You know, I don't think you've ever actually shared that story with me.
I could have swore I shared that story with you like multiple times.
Yeah, but the music part, I don't think you
Oh,
shared that part with me, and I was just sitting here kind of in awe. I was like, "I don't think she ever told me that."
you know what? Maybe I didn't. I think
I
I
don't
just
think you
told
did?
you. Yeah, I think I just told you I that I connected to her. I don't think I told you about the music. Yeah, I did create like a
Fascinating.
face. I did create like a Facebook post about it a while back, but no one reads my Facebook posts, so I don't think anyone
That's
like
because
knew.
nobody spends time on Facebook anymore.
Is that what it is?
That's my theory. I think everyone just is completely obsessed with TikTok.
I know. Yeah, you're probably right about that.
Huh. That is really, really I mean, it's fascinating and it's also a really beautiful story.
It really is. It was really life changing, and I'll never forget it. Like it was just one of those profound experiences that you just changes you forever, and you're just like moves forever. But yeah, it was very beautiful, and I'm grateful that she came through in that way. It's so crazy that she came through the music like that. Crazy how those things happen.
It is. I can honestly say that my story is not as profound at all. Um, I think I found out what my frequency was back in December. So I haven't known for that long, like 8 months ago. Um, I was just in meditation. I was just in a weird I was not in a weird, but I was in a meditative state, and all of a sudden I hear, "Oh, you're a goddess." And I'm not the best meditator. I have vastly improved since then, but I kinda just shrugged it off and I just kinda laughed it off, and I was like, "Haha, that's funny." And I remember the next day or the same day, I messaged Tiara and I was just like, "So, I just got the craziest message," and she replied and she was like, "Well, maybe it's not that crazy." And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, it is." And I'm not gonna tell you what my frequency is just yet because I have not gotten permission and I have an idea of where it came from, but I don't have confirmation on that yet. But I can tell you that my frequency is very tied to Gaia and
Yeah,
Gaia's mission with the ascension process. And I can share that I am a very high vibrational being. Am being pushed to my spiritual limits in every way, shape, and form. I can say that my journey has helped me develop. I think at some point I'm going to have every spiritual gift, which is extremely extremely rare, just to kind of give you an idea of my journey and where I'm headed and who I am. I have some of the rarest spiritual gifts already and they won't stop. They just keep developing. And I have a love-hate relationship with it only because it's amazing to have access to all of this knowledge, but at the same time, the more access I have to all this knowledge, the more pressure I have from the angelic realm to live out a greater purpose. And I have no problem with that, but it gets stressful sometimes. And it's it's hard because we do live on on the physical and in the 3D earth and on this planet, and it's very hard to be a high vibrational being in a 3D world.
it is. And so along those notes, it's beautiful, right, to have like these gifts and been bestowed with such a gifts and frequency. But at the same time, there's also this aspect of burden because now we have these super high expectations of us, and we have to sort of navigate carrying such a high frequency in such a low frequency place.
Right. It's just it's very hard for me too because I'm a very logical and practical thinker, and for a person who is very logical and practical, you have to in this journey, you really have to break down everything that everything that doesn't make sense to you. And that's part of the reason why my journey's been so hard, only because I'm just like, well, that doesn't make sense to my brain. And I get messages being like, well, stop being practical. Stop being, stop thinking so much and just trust the process. And so that's really kind of where I'm at in my journey is just fully surrendering. I would say that I'm 90% there. So I've come a really long way, but it's not far enough. It's not 100%, and that's really the main struggle right now is I live in a 3D place, right? There's no escaping that,
Hmm.
and they just want 100% surrender. So I'm
Yeah,
working on it. I'm working on it.
we're both working on it, right? It's not going to happen overnight. It's a process. Surrender is a process. And it took me a long time to even get like grasp what that meant at all. Like I was just like especially when I was like 30, 40, I was like, surrender to what? Like, what? Like I make my life happen. I make these things happen for me. It's up to me or it doesn't get done. to the universe, surrender means that you trust the universe to deliver unto you everything you seek and want fully and completely, and trust in that, which is like a foreign concept to like 99.9% of the earth. So it is a process because you have to unwire your mind from what you've been taught your entire life. And that's not easy to do. Like, it's really not.
Agreed.
So yesterday, when we were talking about this goddess frequency with the angelic realm, we also brought up High Priestess energy because I feel like it's very similar. And I wanted to see if there was a difference or similarity between goddess frequency versus High Priestess energy. So it is similar, but it's more like earth based. So this is what they said. When it comes to the high priestess energy, that is something that is achieved through a process of healing and ascending, and it allows one to come into abilities that allow them to perceive or communicate with the other realm. So it's similar to the goddess frequency. The only difference is that it's not as high of a frequency and it's not assigned by the angels. So you might hear some people refer to themselves as like, I'm a high priestess. I do these things. I can talk to the dead. Which essentially that's basically what they mean is that they can just perceive the other realm, communicate to the other realm. Like they know how to make that connection to other frequencies, other realms, other areas of existence. So I just wanted to make that distinction there because, again, they're similar, but they're also very, very different. So, interesting tidbits. When I was told that I had this goddess of the sea energy, I was like, okay, that's really interesting, but I can't possibly be the only person experiencing something like this. So I asked Spirit, I was like, how many people are on this planet with this specific goddess of the sea frequency? And I was given the number 9. And at that time, I was like, and I kind of am still like this. I'm working on it. Oh, I need to validate that because I can't tell if, like, I'm just going crazy. So I went to tarot and I was like, tarot, how many goddess of the sea frequencies are there? And for those of you who know tarot, each tarot card has a number assigned to it. So I think I just let like a couple cards fall or pop or jump or however you want to call it. And then I added up, not added up, that's not the term I want to use, reduced all the numbers to 9. And I was like, what? That's wild. This is a planet of billions and billions of people. And you mean to tell me there are only 9 people on this planet with this frequency? Like, what? So then I asked, okay, well, where are these people mostly located? And I was told that a lot of them exist in Africa, which makes sense because Yamaya is a deity that was tied to West African belief systems. And I was just like, huh, that is interesting. Now, I know that there are other frequencies out there. I think that these frequencies are tied to like other gods or maybe different elements, or Ali said that hers is tied to Gaia or like to the earth. So I think they all have some type of link to a deity or an element of some sort. We haven't really unraveled all of that. Oh gosh, I think we need to add that to the channeling list. Let's add that to the channeling list
What's the specific question?
about the other goddess frequencies on this planet and if they're tied to like other gods or deities or to other elements. Because I'd really want to know that.
Got it.
So, so that's kind of the breakdown a little bit. And those of you who are on the ascension journey, like you'll know that you're entering that high priestess area once you start to really connect to your divine feminine and start to align with her, once you start to be able to perceive more deeply, once you start being able to hear the other realms, connect to the other realms, communicate with the other realms, once you get to that space when you can traverse both realms effectively. So keep that in mind for those of you who are on that ascension journey, who are just trying to get to 5D and reach that space, you might be stepping into some high priestess energies. And if you are, I just want to give you my respects because that's not an easy journey and it takes a lot to get there. And if you're there, then you know what? Much respect to you, girl. Much respect.
It's like Tiara said, this is really a difficult journey, and it might not be difficult for everyone, and kudos to you if it's not. I know for me personally, it's been very difficult, and I know for Tiara even more so. Hers has been you can take my difficulty and probably times it by 5 for her journey, being as difficult as it is. We just have very interesting souls, and when we first connected on this, I think we were like, "Oh my god, we're on a similar journey," but as we dug into past lives and past life regression, we slowly started to realize we are on very, very different journeys, but with that being said, I mean, Tiara and I have been bound and tied together for thousands of years throughout our past lives. So we have a very, very close bond. And you'll learn more about that through this journey of our podcast. But we definitely have interesting stories to share, and it's very unique to the universe.
Yeah, speaking of interesting stories, my soul has been through some of the worst possible things that could possibly happen to a being or entity. Like, as worse as you could imagine it, think of it as 10 times worse than that. My soul has been locked in a low vibrational demonic state for thousands and thousands of years, not necessarily through any fault of her own. It was just a divine counterpart made a pact with the infernal. It locked her into that pact. And unfortunately, it just created a very negative downward karmic spiral. And it existed for thousands and thousands of years. Which, by the way, if you feel like, oh God, people, if you're like, hey, I want to make a pact with this dark demonic entity because I want riches and wealth and fame, or if you're thinking, hey, I'm going to sell my soul to the devil, which, as crazy as it sounds, I have seen people bragging about doing this on TikTok and it makes me want to rip my hair out. Do not do this because it will lock your soul into a low vibrational state for eternity with no escape unless you ask for help from the divine. And they're not going to give it to you unless you ask. Like, I'm just letting you know right now. Please do not consider this type of thing. It is dark. It is very, very dark. So, unfortunately, my soul has had to go through this process. And one of the reasons why Ali and I are tied together is because her soul has been assisting me to escape this darkness. And this is maybe the first lifetime where my soul has actually really dug into some of that deep trauma and like stopped fighting. Um, because it is traumatic. Like those things are traumatic. And we talk about how trauma affects people. On the show, we're going to talk a lot about trauma. But I'm discovering that not only can trauma affect you physically, like, you know, as a person, like when you're incarnate, but it can also affect the soul. So unfortunately, through that process, when I was experiencing that trauma, my vibration fell to a point where my soul had to split or fracture because the damage was just so much. Which is why I'm a split soul, which is very, very rare, by the way. Like the split soul concept, it's so rare. But that did happen to me. So the journey here is for me to mend and merge those fractured parts back together. And yes, it has been quite a journey, an experience. Um, but I'm here, and I really hope that at this point that we're through the worst of it, or that like the most dangerous aspects of the journey. I can't tell because every time we think that something happens. Uh, but yeah, it's been difficult, but I'm committed to reaching the end goal. which is union and merge with my fractured self, with my twin soul. We're both committed to that. So that's what this is all about. And that's why our souls are so tied together. And we will talk a lot more about that in other episodes because, man, like I can't even begin to tell you like the dynamic background behind that story. Like, it's got a couple spin-offs too.
I would say that there is more that meets the eye to this, and it's true in the 3D physical, you should never judge a book by its cover, but once you add a soul and a soul journey to it, it completely changes everything, and it's like rewriting an entire book, because one thing about trauma is that your soul remembers that. Your soul remembers that, and when you reincarnate, you meet with your spirit team and you write up your soul contract for things that you want to experience, but lessons that you need to learn. And this is really why we come to this planet, is to learn lessons. And if you don't learn them and if you create more karma, then it just kind of starts to spiral and it kind of turns into a shit show. And through this shit show, it's just it becomes really complicated because your soul remembers, but your body doesn't, like, your conscious mind doesn't, and so you might be feeling things and you're just like, "Why am I feeling these things? Like, I have a great life." Well, that's because your subconscious, your soul is trying to talk to you and communicate with you, being like, "Nope, this isn't the path that you're supposed to be going. This is something that we're trying to draw attention to. We want you to learn the lesson." And this will continue to happen until you learn the lessons. And I call it, I think, me personally, I think it's kind of a vicious cycle because your soul's going to remember this stuff, but your memory gets wiped clean. So you're just kind of here, but then these things start to come up. And I know Tiara has experienced this before, where she connected with her divine counterpart and everything was great. And then all of a sudden, she was just like, my heart hurts. Why does my heart hurt? And it's just a perfect example of everything is not quite what it seems. And this is why we're doing this podcast, to be able to share information, to kind of talk about our journeys so you can relate to us. Anyone who's interested in this journey, we can help.
Yes, absolutely. And, Ali and I are both healers. So we have the ability to assist anyone who's on that journey and maybe they're feeling stuck or maybe they're navigating through trauma and they just don't quite know how to get beyond certain roadblocks in their path. Like we have tools and ways to assist you with that outside of this podcast. So, yeah, I mean, we share these tales not to terrify you guys, my story is kind of terrifying, but I don't mean to terrify you guys. It's just to, show you that, hey, this is what can happen. Please don't do it this way. There are other ways. There's a way out of it, but you really have to put in the work and you have to apply the wisdom and the knowledge that has been given to you to get out of it. So that's been my focus in this lifetime and in other lifetimes. But Ali's right. I've struggled with learning the lessons because I was tied in such a deep, low vibrational state. So it's taken a lot for me to get to where I am right now. And for those of you who are on a similar journey, like I completely understand. I watched a TikTok that was it was a reading actually. And the girl who did the reading was like, congratulations, you've gotten this far, you have achieved, this high frequency, you've gotten beyond the darkness. And I just put one comment. I said, thank you. It has taken me 10,000 lifetimes to get here. And, I wasn't really thinking much of it, but that comment got so much attention and likes. I think it was the most liked comments on her reading, on her video, because I would go back and it was just like more and more people liking and more people saying, I felt that, I feel you, thank you, I understand, you made it. So I know that there are other souls that are on a similar journey that have really gone through the ringer to get out of that low vibrational state. Um, so, I see you guys. I feel you guys. I completely understand. So, again, we just want to let you guys know that there are people on this journey who get it. And that's another reason why we created this podcast. I always feel like there's so much more I want to share. And then I look and I'm like, oh shit, we've talked for 40 minutes.
It happens.
It does happen. So, thanks you guys so much for tuning in. At this point, we should have a fully active website up and running called, let's see, what's the URL? www.goddessvibrationstudio.com, where you can learn about our podcast, you can learn about me, you can learn about Ali, and then you should be able to also either see links to the different podcast providers or links to our episodes. So it just kind of depends on how you want to go about that. But please do check us out on our websites. And then we are also on YouTube. We're also on Instagram, and Ali and I have individual TikToks as well. So please do check us out on TikTok when you get the chance, if you use TikTok. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. And until next time.